happy to be with you guys tonight. We're going to talk about an Antarctica update and also the second hour Mars. But Antarctica is the critical focus, Doug, for the majority of black ops, meaning the secret programs that most people don't know about, and also ancient civilizations and the technology that was able to stay hidden for all these years and by a civilization that the Nazis basically cut a deal with, and henceforth the title for my book, Empire Beneath the Ice. Now, I want to share something. I'm not immediately out of the chute trying to sound self-serving, but here's the thing. I believe that when I put that book out, it was at the time that the Lord had me put it out, because up until that time, nothing had ever been done. Now, there are other people that have written about it, Jim Mars, God bless him, and others. There are Michael Salla. There are some really fine authors out there. But the difference was that my take on it and my information from all the different sources basically pointed me to the Nazis in New Schwabenland and the deal they had made. Now, I want to put some things into perspective. You cannot understand what's going on in the Antarctica until you understand that under Heinrich Himmler and under the Third Reich, they went into realms of the occult, searching through volumes, literally tens of thousands of volumes of different esoteric literature, what some people call, and I agree with them, satanic writings, also the leftovers of any type of ancient history, myth, or legend that attributed any of its strength to the supernatural. So the reason, to quote Dr. Werner von Braun and also Dr. Hermann Oberth and others about the Nazis being able to develop the rockets, flying saucers, and they really did, working on nuclear weapons, and also stargates. Now, for the record, for a number of years, there were certain individuals that were in the Deep Black program that would give me stuff to tell. And they would give me stuff to tell in order to get people prepared. And I thought that, people would just be loving it to hear this stuff and would do something about it. Guess what, Doug? My biggest disappointment was guessing wrongly, and their biggest statement to me, which is right, that said, Steve, you care, but most people don't. Now, just why Antarctica is in the news is simple. Because underneath the ice, and I will say this, that there is a system that I was told to artificially generate ice, just like you hear of weather control, weather modification, all of the different weather control and modification patents, of which there are hundreds of them, that Dane Wigington and others have placed on geoengineeringwatch.org, that the technology has existed. So if an advanced civilization and the Nazis that pretty much won World War II and then came or sued for peace with the United States were able to, if you will, create an ice cloaking mechanism, you can understand how they could stay hidden for so long. But inherent with the ice cloaking mechanism of the Antarctic as well as the Arctic, the North Pole and South Pole, are a little thing called volcanoes, which become problematic. Doug, I was going through my website, just in my archives, and I want to read some of the not emails, forgive me, too many emails. And by the way, I don't answer emails anymore unless they're related to customers or clients. I just can't do it. I wish I would have had the strength of character not to do it all along, but I can't answer, just 4 questions that basically a person wants. I just can't do it anymore. I don't mean to be aloof, but after 25 years of talk radio and being on, a lot of, I can't say that word, a lot of people's hate quail lists, I just don't have time for it anymore, and I believe the place that God has for me is warning people now of the coming supernatural warfare and basically, the things that they don't see in the spirit realm that are going to manifest in the physical realm. So what I want to share tonight, we're going to do the first hour specifically on the Antarctic, so feel free to ask me questions. But the idea is simply this, that the announcement of ruins from futuristic civilization and the ones that have been hidden in Antarctica, there are going to be concurrent announcements made from world leaders at a given time. And guess what? The United Nations disaster beyond my ability to describe, even with made-up words, is going to orchestrate it all. I want everybody to ask themselves this question: who is powerful enough to summon the world's religious leaders and the world's political leaders to a secret, if you will, revealing or a secret planning session to gain total control of the planet Earth and to, at the point of their choosing, make their presence known. Well, we don't have to play the Jeopardy theme song in the background. What is going on is that the God of this world, little g, who I believe is Satan, and his minions have ruled surreptitiously from both under the ice and off planet. And the thing that most people cannot even begin to understand is this, that when Jesus said, the whole world lies in the evil one, there wasn't a partiality, there wasn't a segmentation, there wasn't a percentage, and there wasn't a decimal point in that statement. In other words, the whole world does. I hope by the end of tonight people will wonderfully understand, maybe that's a good word, wonderstand, that's wonder and understand together, just what a magnificent offer of salvation and redemption that God has offered to those who will accept his Son, Jesus Christ. Now, people say, well, you need to leave out the spiritual stuff. What's coming, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't have the power of God, you will absolutely be consumed by the power of hell. It's up to you. Doug, before I came down here to get ready for the program, I just grabbed a quick bite, some lettuce and stuff, and the point being, there was some gentleman on Fox News, and he was talking about what the problem was with evangelical Christians and the fact that basically he was calling them cowards, but he said it in such a way that they won't. Here's what he basically said. Those of you who just watched it, I believe he's the author of a book, said, there's nothing they're willing to fight for. What a tragedy. So I categorically, I identify with biblical realists redeemed by the blood of Jesus Christ, walking in a transformative experience by the presence of the Holy Ghost, repenting and believing that I am God's workmanship and not the workmanship of hell, though I was the workmanship of hell until God restored his image in me through the blood of Jesus. So what I'm saying tonight is this. You could no more get evangelical Christians, the majority of them, to listen to our presentation like this than you could to get them to stand up for Jesus. Most people don't get that. So let's get right into the Antarctica. You have to ask yourself, who is powerful enough to summon? Well, the answer is the prince of this world. Who is powerful enough to cause a consistent and almost a simultaneous hate for the people of God? Well, the answer to that is the prince of this world, the prince of darkness. And now the idea is the closest thing on Earth to a mission to Mars is the Antarctica. So let me tell everybody how this is going to unfold. And for the record, do you remember, Doug, on your show when we first talked about Empire Beneath the Ice? Here's what I'm getting at. 18 months ago, and during that time period when the book came out, I said, you watch. The narrative is going to change from the Antarctica to Mars, and they're going to tie the Antarctica to Mars, and the Martian microbes seeded the life, and that under the ice in Lake Vostok, and in the, if you will, the quiet, calm, tropical paradise that exists under the ice, which basically the Germans spelled out in detail, they're going to announce that the Martians created us. It's critical. It's absolutely critical that people understand that the people aren't just going down to Antarctica for no reason. We now have the greatest manifestation of weather warfare through waves being emanated from ancient technology that's been switched on, turned on. Imagine this. Imagine a puzzle. Imagine scientists in different parts of the world, and I believe it was due to the timing and the grace of God, were getting pieces of the puzzle, but they didn't know how to switch on, if you will, the doomsday weather machines. Oh, they were able with 200 patents to pretty much generate the weather, and as the Russians claimed, they were able to take Tesla's patent, geodynamic energy, or telegeodynamic energy, and split the Earth if they wanted to, which, by the way, isn't an idle boast. But imagine, due to the timing of the rebellion on planet Earth, the full court press for the treasure of the universal worship of all men on the planet to Lucifer himself when he sits enthroned, that these pieces came together supernaturally and at a time that was appointed. Just as in the book of Daniel, it talks for the appointed time when God would release specific understanding and knowledge. That's what's going on with Antarctica. So now the thing that's fascinating is most people don't understand from 1976 To date, they claim that more than 21,000 meteorites have been found from Mars on Earth. So the question remains, how did all those Mars meteorites come to Earth? Well, the Jeopardy song goes back into play, but then you understand that there has been a cataclysmic war going on between good and evil, and God judged the fallen angels on the planet Rahab. And I presented this at the the True Legends Conference in Branson, and those who got the videos and were there or live stream know what that's about. So as I go to the show with you tonight, the things that I want to hit on, if you will, is that now we have, if you will, a total Martian book of creation that the peoples of Earth and the scientists of Earth are already getting ready to prepare the people on the surface of the Earth for. Now, as you know, Antarctica is not to be militarized, but that didn't apply to the United States because we've got plenty of military presence there. Within months, I told people that according to my sources, and my sources, I can't name them. Number one, I wouldn't. But number two, they've heard me say, and I do not want to know their name. I will stop them. They say, hi, I'm Ted, and I work with the U. And I say, don't. Stop it. I said, I don't know. What do you want me to say? What information do you have for me? I'll ask the person to give it to me. I obviously file it away. And then I ask the Lord. I said, Lord, give me 2 or 3 witnesses to this information that are totally unrelated to each other. So that's how, Doug, that's the only way I can do it. And then as I say on your show, probably this line more than any other line I've ever spoken, take it to the Lord in prayer. Because, again, there are people say, I don't think you tell the truth. Well, what you don't think doesn't matter. People who are praying and really crying out to God, saying, Lord, where do I go to find out what's really going on from a biblical perspective? A lot of them end up listening to you, Doug, and to the guests on your show, and obviously are brought to me through you and also my website. But I think it's important that people understand something, that Mars and the Earth could be, if you will, twin planets. We're so close to having the same spin axis. I'll just give this to people who weren't at Branson. Earth's spin axis is 23 degrees 44. Mars is 23.98, 97.7 similarity. Earth's rate of rotation is 1,436 minutes. Mars's rate of rotation is 1,477 minutes, so a similarity of 98.2%. The amount of scientific endeavor that's taking place in Antarctica and the truth of Mars are the things that I guess if I could ask, and I do ask the Lord this, I said, Lord, will you please reveal to your people your signature on this revelation? Because look, Doug, and I'm 66, and my final days, which are known to the Lord, years or months, whatever it is, I want them to count for Jesus. And the greatest heartwarming emails I get are, thank you. No one would ever answer my question about how all this stuff fit together, and you did. Obviously, there are people that will not accept it under any pretext, context, no matter if it stared them in the face or they were instantly taken through a Stargate to Mars. I've got to share with people that the Antarctic, there are people that have been to the Antarctic. Well, one of them is a very famous talk show host whose father worked for an aerospace firm after his company was bought out. I won't give his name on, but if you put 2 and 2 together, you'll figure it out. He's been to Antarctica as a child and literally could tell you stories, and I've been pushing him to, come forth and break forth because he's old enough that I don't know how many years he has on Earth, but his days are shorter than mine. So if someone's literally been to Antarctica, I'll pay attention to them, especially when they can validate and verify all the different stories that I've been told. Now, Antarctica, it's fascinating because the geothermal features of Antarctica, which are fed by a subterranean labyrinth of over 100, volcanoes, is absolutely an astonishing thing. It's a literal, if you will, world within a world. It would be the quintessential expression of Shangri-La or Shambhala. And without the cosmic radiation that is present to those on Earth, you could expect the longevity to be greater there. In other words, people could live to be older. It is my contention, and I've never said this before, based on what I know, based on who I know, and based on the information I've been given, that obviously those who have ruled the planet have succeeded in genetically cloning complete duplicates of the originator. They have completely succeeded in downloading the subconscious and the essence of a human. Now, the question I get asked, can they transfer the spirit if that person was created in the image of God? Can that transfer in? In other words, imagine someone who's a Christian, who's getting ready to die, and they basically embrace the dark side. Here's the key. Pay attention to the terminology, everyone. Do they have then that same, if you will, entity that they were when they were a Christian before they turned away from Jesus and are basically duplicated and downloaded? My answer is no, and it's a real simple thing. Because the new creation that God generates is in us, meaning we're the seed of Adam. We come to Jesus, we're considered the seed of the second Adam. That's what Jesus is called, the Son of Man. That's why we are his brothers or his sisters, but he is the Son of God, and he adopts us. He makes us accepted in the beloved. That's just basic Bible. So when you're talking about a situation that's taking place under the Antarctic, you've got to recognize this, that it's a pretty tempting and seducing thing to offer you that you can live forever and never die. And look at how advanced we're going to be. There's a gentleman listening to this show tonight. I can use his first name, Will, God bless you, who basically was approached. And if I didn't think I'd put his life in danger, he was spec ops guy. He now works as a federal agent. And the deal is, if I could get him to come on and tell the story about two people who approached him concerning me, and I don't know how long ago this was, Doug, because I don't mean to be losing track of time, but I live in the now. Today is the day of salvation. And by the grace of God, it's not senility. It's the importance of the day. He was approached by two people that basically, and when I tell these stories, people think it's bragging or whatever. It just is, and I don't have anything to defend. I have to answer to God for what I'm going to say. But they told him, they said, you need to talk to Quayle. You need to tell him what we're willing to offer him if he'll change his tune and start to take the people that listen to him. And they were aware of how many people listen, probably better than I am. And, if Quayle would do what we say, he could name his price, okay? And by the way, one of them drove, just to be specific, one of them drove an old Porsche racing car, I forget the number 9, and if that gentleman's listening, look, you guys now, somebody said Quayle's talking in code. No, I'm specifically speaking to the people that offered this. It sounded really good, but unfortunately, it's not good as eternity. These people went on to tell my friend about the world they see and that the advanced technology that exists on other planets and other places and blah, 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 a deal that no one could refuse except what? It isn't coming from the Spirit of God, and of course it was refused. So, Doug, what I'm trying to do now is my days on talk radio are in God's hands, and I'm shifting gears. I'm going into the unseen world that's going to be visible. If I could tell you how many times now Antarctica is coming up in conversations with people that I know or people who know what majestic or cosmic clearance is, you'd be amazed, ladies and gentlemen. You'd be amazed. So how do all these Martian meteorites get close to Earth? Well, listen, 700 BC, before Jesus, and actually I don't say BCE, I'll just say before Christ, and if I had my way, it would be before the advent of Jesus Christ, BAGOC or whatever. Before the advent, you know what I'm saying, the initials. I would tell people that there was a war in heaven, that the planet Rahab, which I mentioned earlier, was judged. It was Lucifer's planet. And that's where the asteroid belt came from, and that's where the Obadiah chapter. There's only one chapter in Obadiah, and it says, "Though you exalt yourself amongst the stars, yet will I bring thee down." The idea is simply this: that God brought the planets into a series of orbital confrontation, and the electrical discharge between those planets, according to Roche's limit, caused the breakup of the planet Rahab, and that incidentally, those fragments must have hit Mars, as Mars was a whole lot closer to the Earth, according to Aristophanes, famous Greek scientist, the former head of the Alexandria Egyptian Library, who had ancient writings that, by the way, proved the Earth was round in 235 BC, and he had calculated the circumference of the Earth within a couple thousand miles, Doug. Now, obviously he wasn't worried about a flat Earth, and NASA didn't exist then, and obviously there was no concern. And that will be published on my website in the next couple days. So getting away from all the nonsense, Antarctica is probably the most important point on the planet, because these waves of energy that are being shown that YouTubers are talking about, there is a new form of energy from an ancient form of technology that has been activated at this time. Everything in the world that God created was in perfect balance. And I've talked to people that said, man, I don't know what's going on. I can't think. It's like my whole field in my brain is different. People talking, I'm talking about people who are athletic. They're not suffering from any type of malady. They're people who are normally lucid and coherent. I'm getting those emails from all over the world. But guess what? The most important people, when I say this, who are being affected are the ones that are within the beam angle or the waveform trajectory of Antarctica. It's fascinating, wouldn't you say? We're talking about various new life forms that are going to be announced. I'm talking about Antarctica. We're talking about the coordinated and synchronized release of information. The conduit between Antarctica and Mars is going to increase. The idea that Antarctica, you talk about frozen in time. My answer to that is what happens when what happens when time no longer is frozen? What happens when the people on this planet finally get to see to the degree of what has been hidden from us? And, of course, it'll be pitched as to, it was for our own benefit. The idea is simply this, that under the control of the intelligence agencies who obviously made deals, the CIA was an offshoot of the OSS after the breakup of, the unofficial surrender, if you will, of the Nazis at the end of World War II. After 1947, secret agreements are made, Operation Paperclip, the best of Germany's intelligentsia, their scientists, their banking and pharmaceutical industries are brought to the United States, given fake IDs, false IDs, and put into service. And in essence, they have a new master now. But unfortunately, the new master was just had the same strings attached to the old master who's controlling the shots. Do you hear what I'm saying? We have, if you will, the Nazi stronghold underneath Antarctica, and whether that some people get offended at that, forget it. Let's just call this, okay? Techno-Luciferians who have joined together, that the same evil spirits that pretty much controlled the world until God bound enough of them to allow the gospel to be preached and the nations that obeyed God to be prosperous and blessed. But now it's all coming to a head because we're in the time where everything that is going to be, made known, that's been veiled, that's been hidden, will be used and released in order to subjugate and destroy anybody that won't go along with the New World Order. Well, and then again, so the headlines, there's so many of them, that I can't go through all of them, but, there's life on Mars, say scientists, and it's closely related to our own planet, and it's always linked to Antarctica. Often say they think there's bacteria below Mars' icy surface that is very similar to that found in Antarctica. Well, most people remember there was a photograph of Mars in the McMurdo Sound. There were bacteria being released from under the ice that were flowing into the McMurdo Sound that looked just like Yellowstone National Park. Well, guess what, you guys? The world's laboratory for astrobiology is Yellowstone National Park, and there are some other places around the world, but no place is equal to Yellowstone due to what are called extremophiles, bacteria that can live in extreme cold or extreme hot. And Doug, one of the reasons, and I want to share something tonight, one of the reasons I've spent so much time in Yellowstone, beyond I love it, beyond the fact that it's amazingly beautiful, is that I knew there was something there. It didn't come into focus, obviously, 45 years ago when I started photographing that. And that being Yellowstone National Park, I didn't know all this stuff. I didn't even think about this stuff. I just man, what a great place of contrast. So before you guys go listening to the volcano's going to blow at any time, the volcano's going to blow at any time, the volcano's going to blow at any time, I want you to take a look. I put up Yellowstone, the Unseen Splendor. Now, this is just basically a reel of some of the most beautiful photography in the world that exists. from an aerial and a land-based thing. It's music. I call it a symphony for the eyes and the ears. It's on the top right-hand corner. You can stream it on Vimeo, unlimited streaming. It's $9.99. But if you want to understand something, look at, and Doug, I don't know if you can put it up on your screen behind you, but the banner shows Grand Prismatic Springs, okay? And Grand Prismatic Springs is probably the most single identifiable geyser pool in the world. It's also the biggest. And if you then go on a Google search, go look at the Ring Nebula, and you're going to see a very unusual phenomenon. You're going to see the same color scheme that is represented in Yellowstone, represented in one of the most beautiful Hubble telescope shots of deep space. And I don't know if you can get that up right now, but maybe you can do it during the next hour.
We actually have Yellowstone up there right now. Yellowstone Unseen Splendor up there right now.
Yeah, the Unseen Splendor. Now I want to share something. Those of you who will never get there need to see it, because I don't mean to sound like I'm trying to bait anyone, but I'm sure the critics will take it that way. As more revelations come from Yellowstone, the tie to Mars and Antarctica is going to become clearer and clearer, okay? And in order to follow me, I think it would be, this is the easiest way I could do it, to get this up. Now, this is not the mainstream movie we have that's in full-scale production right now. That's on the level of the true legends. The reason I chose to do this is because I wanted to give people the wow of the creative majesty and genius of Almighty God. You look at this and you go, wow. It truly, and the wow is, I use the definition wow, or the acronym, for the wonder of his word. When I think that the King of Glory just spoke this into existence, I mean, I'm telling you what, at whatever I'm at, 8,000 feet, 5,000 feet, 7,000 feet, whatever my altitude is in the helicopter I'm taking these photographs, I'm wowing and I'm praising God. I tell people that I don't have a church to go to, but I sure can meet the Lord in the air, at least for a short period, until the fuel runs out. And I'm not trying to be silly about that. So Yellowstone, the Unseen Splendor, I'd encourage everybody, especially those of you who will never get to see Yellowstone. This has never been presented this way in such detail. And I've been told by people, Doug, that saw it at Branson. If you remember, there was a standing ovation. I had people send me emails saying that it made them weep and praise God. I also had 4 people that shouldn't have been to Branson at all because they complained it used too much time. They missed the point. The point is, ladies and gentlemen, Yellowstone, and the pretty picture you see on the front of my website, or the one that Doug has up now that you can view, each one of those colors is a thermophile bacteria. This is what Antarctica is dealing with. This is why what you saw running into McMurdo Sound when the ice was melting was the very same extreme bacteria, extremophiles, just meaning bacteria that are only present in really hot or really, really cold water. In other words, extreme, i.e., that's why they call them that. But one of those bacteria changed the history of the world forever. One of those bacteria at Mushroom Springs, which is another one of the things you'll see in this Yellowstone Unseen Splendor, while everyone is wasting time on Yellowstone's going to blow, the course of one bacteria changed the history of the world forever. Carrie Mullis shared the Nobel Prize for it in polymerase chain reaction. For those of you who understand CRISPR gene editing, that means that it enabled basically the combination of any gene sequence now, where before, when they were limited to using E. coli was very sensitive to heat, and the facilitating factor of E. coli was destroyed. This made, in essence, the end of mankind possible. Does that make sense to you, Doug, as an investigator? Man, I am striving so hard to be linear. You know, I can tell you this is a funny thing. You know, so many people say, I get you, Stephen, I follow you. So many complain, and I take usually the nameless ones, I can't follow you at all. Why don't you get off the radio? I said, because the people who can follow me, like to hear me, and once you get off my case. The point being is that this is the most critical thing. What I'm trying to tie in Bozeman, Montana, and I'm going to be veiled here, Doug, because I have to. I can tell you this, that by the grace of God and by what he's called me to do, and his promise to me, if I would warn the people of God, he'll always bring the people that know to me to be able to pass on what his people need to use. Now, as somebody who's been on talk radio for 25 years, it doesn't matter the 9,000, 10,000 hours, written what I've written. It has been the fulfillment of the word of the Lord, and I make no apologies for Jesus. I love him. I thank God that he's willing to save anybody even tonight that'll call upon the name of the Lord, who says, God, if you're real, reveal yourself to me, and you're not high or, basically doing something you shouldn't be doing, and you want to get honest with God, then he will. But the idea is simply this, that by releasing this information, I'm going to say everything. You watch this take place. We're on, it was the 20th of October. You watch the revelations that now come forth on Mars and Antarctica. They're going to increase beyond anything you can imagine. You watch the preliminary soft cell of alien disclosure. You watch the announcements of new technology. You watch Mars, a new rocket propulsion system. You watch all that. And by the way, I categorically do not believe NASA. Never a straight answer. I believe the guys that have that fly the TR-3s and 4s, Tango Romeo 3 Bravos, Tango Romeo 4 Bravos, beyond that, I believe the guys that have been to Mars, and by the way, I don't drink, I don't smoke, the idea, and the reason I'm saying that is not to say whoopee for me for any moral standard, it's just that I do not, I have the people that have been there. I'm not sitting around, two tokes over the line, sweet Jesus, talking about this stuff. By the way, there was a time when Lawrence Welk thought that song was a hymn. I don't know if you ever heard that story by Brewer and Shipley, but it's funny. The point being is that we are always now going to be confronted with the aliens, the aliens, the aliens, the aliens. And when this new film comes out, I won't even release the title to it yet. I'm talking about the complete film. You will see interviews with the who's who in the world of this stuff. You will see mind-boggling imagery, and you'll be able to put it together. And it'll be like this. It'll be like the tapestry. Most people that do tapestries, and some of the most famous tapestries in the world, like I think it's the Bayeux Tapestry, delineating the Battle of 1066, the Battle of Hastings, and some of the very well-known historical ones. The problem is, Doug, people are staring at stitches and are failing to see the whole tapestry. Right now, as the whole tapestry comes into play, there'll be no denying it. Then they're going to be confronted with the biggest, I tell you the word, the OG moment, when it's all in their lap. So it's my goal that people can get a handle on why I'm talking about this. Now, they're going to say that Mars, here's how it's going to play out in the Antarctic. They're going to claim that the Martian bacteria had a chance to evolve under the ice, away from any of the, if you will, terrestrial earthly influences, whether it's gamma rays or whatever, and that life became, if you will, through whatever, an upheaval or an event. That's what seeded the planet. Now, I categorically do not believe in evolution, genetic evolution. I don't believe in any form of evolution, but I'm telling you this, I'm able to embrace how these guys are going to present it, the building blocks of life. Well, the building blocks of life, that doesn't take into account fallen angels, demons, and it doesn't take into account that the Nazis, in order to gain the power and knowledge, were involved in every form of occult practice ever practiced by the dark arts. And the hidden books of Himmler's library, I think some tens of thousands or 13,000 volumes were found less than a year ago. So it's a historic fact. When I was dealing with some of the people I used to deal with, and for those of you who are without equal, again, I say thank you, Sine Pare. The idea is to basically tell the people of God who have ears to listen what's really going on, who have eyes to see what's really going on. If I were to tell you the amount of people I think that is, Doug, it would be like Gideon's 30,000 being taken down to 300, or by the grace of God, those who were at Branson. You heard me make this statement. I think you did. If you didn't, it's obvious on the DVD. I believe that God had 3,000 people there that wanted to hear. I don't believe anybody was at Branson or anybody live streamed or will get the DVDs that wasn't meant to be there. Do you remember me saying that?
Absolutely, I do. Yep.
So again, ladies and gentlemen, the Antarctic plays a big deal. You know where one of the biggest research labs on the Antarctic is? Basically in Bozeman, Montana. Bozeman has one of the most sophisticated astrobiology labs in the world. And the control of the biological material, right now I don't know exactly, but that one patent of Kerry Mullis's that was, by the way, ripped away from him and stolen from him, and he was given a meager sum. You know, again, it's always the big boys rip off the little guys, but, you know, the estimated value of just the biological products in Yellowstone National Park is in the trillions of dollars. Trillions, okay? Not billions, trillions.
Yeah.
And so as we have Earth changes, obviously there will be new bacteria. So getting to Antarctica and Mars, there are 100 volcanoes, you know, and some say 98, others say 100. But imagine bacteria that's not only been placed there by meteorites, but also imagine various life forms that have been frozen in time and space in the ice. Imagine, if you will, that the new movie Geostorm, if some of you have, I have not seen it yet, I'm going to. Some people say it's really cheesy. I got one person said it's over the top. I said from the generals I've talked to, it's about accurate. It shows people frozen, literally turned to ice, instantly frozen. I had a general one time tell me, and I won't go too far with this, so everybody relax who knows about the incident. I'm not talking to your listening audience. I'm talking to the people that told me this. Talk to me about a submarine frozen literally in time and space. There was nothing they could do, Doug, to chip the ice, change the ice, and it was basically a molecular freeze. I don't even understand the physics of it.
Yeah,
imagine
how's
trying
that work,
to explain that.
I mean,
I mean,
wow.
How do you tell someone about that, okay? Yet you see in Geostorm, so let me share this with you. I believe the genetic memory of the fallen angels and their offspring is so, how should I say this now, being released in those who are, if you will, possessors of that, what I would call the third genome, if you will, the third strand of DNA, that it's now coming forth, and they talk about genetic memories, and it's just like, I think it's a good point to recognize that when you see all the Antarctic stuff, that it's critical. Now, again, the people that were brought down to the Antarctic, it doesn't matter who went down there. There are levels of degrees of who gets shown what, okay? But in general, the powerful brokers that brought them down there, it's beyond the Pope, it's beyond the President, it's beyond Vladimir Putin, it's beyond all these guys, is basically making it known that he runs a show. So when somebody said, right now, it doesn't appear that it's going to escalate with the release of information on that level, well, I'm telling you point blank, behind the scenes it is. When John Kerry went to the Antarctic, I don't think everybody, they talked about it a little bit when everybody was going down there, but they don't understand what he was really saying. And remember, he was the Secretary of State then, too. And when you talk about geothermal energy, you're talking about Olympus Mons on Mars. You're talking about the pyramids in the Antarctic. You're talking about the pyramids that are off of Cuba. You're talking about a global pyramid system that wasn't built by Hebrew slaves. So how does this all fit in? You know, it fits in from the standpoint that we are seeing now the greatest revelation of the tie-ins between the darkest secrets and the coldest secrets on Earth and the hottest secrets in the universe. They're all tying together for this appointed time. And it's really important, to me that people get this, okay? I mean, even now, Doug, I just got an email, and I saw it too, but one of your listeners just sent me an email saying, look at the headlines on Drudge. You know, isn't it interesting? 666, right in our face. That's the budget deficit, 666. Who is the debt? Debt, by the way, the root word for debt is death, and death in Greek is thanatos or thanatos, Thanatos. But it's fascinating to me that we're seeing now the revelation, like I said, after the show, and I want you to mark it, and Joe, keep your eyes on it, and those of you, just, go on a Google search and type in Antarctic now, see how many searches there are, whether it's 1,230,000, whatever, and then and make sure you just put in Antarctic and then put in Antarctica Mars connection. Then watch. The idea is simply this, that tonight, Doug, whether you know it, I know it, and I think we both know it, but whether people realize it or not, we're acting as a time sequence to a lock of the hidden treasure of knowledge that will be important for God's people to be warned ahead of time. Now, immediately after getting truth, the devil comes in and says, oh, those guys are crazy. Before you go talking to your buddy or get on some, what I would call, I'm sorry if this offends anybody, but dumbass bulletin board or whatever they call them, why don't you take what you're learning to the Lord in prayer first and then discuss it beyond emotion? One of the problems with denial and one of the problems with truth is you've got to learn that if it's emotionally upsetting, it still can be true. So, and I'm learning this right now, Doug, you ask the Lord to separate your emotional constraints and to show you the truth in light of His love for you and His word's declaration to you. In other words, take the emotion out of it and start to look through the eyes of faith. And there is a great word for everyone. So we're going to get back to the Antarctica, and I'm sorry, but the idea is this, that God's people have got to be brought up to speed because we're at the point now where everything is going to unfold before our eyes. And as it unfolds before our eyes, if you don't see with the eyes of faith, you're going to basically start to melt. And when I say melt, you're going to come down with so much doubt, unbelief, and confusion. How about this statement? The closest thing on Earth to a mission to Mars, Concordia Research Station states, is Antarctica. Scientists discovered that fungus that lives in Antarctica could also live on Mars. Further raises hopes that life on Mars is possible. Winter in Antarctica shows what it will be like to live on Mars. Astronauts visit Antarctica to prepare for Mars voyage. What Antarctica tells us about hope for life on Mars. You guys, these are their headlines, not mine, okay? And these all came out when I look at the time, they come out specifically at about the time, hey, Doug, when Empire Beneath the Ice was released. So, again, ladies and gentlemen, based on what I hear from feedback from all the people that buy that book, they said that's the most important book of my stuff they've ever read. I would encourage you all, you can go to stevequayle.com and get it. And I'd also encourage you, please, Yellowstone is going to come into focus, pun intended, like you've never seen it before. So go on my website, stevequayle.com, and for $10, download the Yellowstone, and I keep saying that word, I apologize, live stream Yellowstone, the Unseen Splendor on Vimeo. The people that are seeing it are just astounded. And I'll tell you what, it's a whole lot cheaper than going to Yellowstone. If a person were to spend thousands of dollars and walk the boardwalks, they could not get the aerial view of what they're being able to see. So, I would really encourage everybody to basically go and take advantage of that. I won't leave it up for long. Again, I'll give you updates, Doug, on how things are progressing. For the record, I cannot get into Antarctica. And Antarctica, they're starting to lock down. The deeper you are into Satanism and Luciferianism, the more access you are given to Antarctica. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
The pyramids, and the pyramids, as I understand it, in Antarctica, have the capstone, and the capstone isn't just a occult feature. The capstone is the energy source. I was told by a multi-star general, actually, I would call it, these guys will know what this means, 5 Synop generals, that the capstones that are missing and the energy source and power for the stargates are incorporated into the capstone. In other words, the capstone with the energy source is what allows the gates to open and the transfer points to be generated. If they have located the ones, and my guess is not only have they located them, but they're operating them now, then they have got the biggest ego boost to their pride. And also there was a time when that kind of, information wasn't made known to the entire world, but just selective intelligence agencies and black ops. Now it's being made known to the world government. You know what it is? It's a form of blackmail. It's a form of Satan telling them, you either play ball with me or you're toast. You're gone. So the lying signs and wonders, here you go, everyone. The lying signs and wonders are appearing in the Antarctic. They're appearing in the Arctic. They're appearing in the skies overhead. I don't know if you guys, and this is relative because the northern lights, the aurora borealis, the other day, there was a full facial of a wolf over Murmansk. Murmansk is where the Russians have one of their nuclear submarine bases. Did you imagine this? Imagine that now those things which have been frozen in time, that have been lost in time, that have been held in abeyance until a specific time. Imagine it's all now being released at the same time. How do you think anybody could deal with what's coming, what is, and what now? Let's just say this: if you will, a nexus being formed of the most horrific time in history, and that's what Jesus said. Now, look, if people are afraid listening to this, I want you to know it's okay to be afraid, but just tell the Lord, Lord, help me to overcome my fear by faith, and help me to remind myself that you've overcome the world. You see, Doug, the problem is, just like that show on Fox, I forget which one it was, but the problem with evangelical Christians, they won't stand up for anything. Now, that isn't a total indictment, but I'll say this, 99% of it is. 99%. The Lutheran Church just voted not to preach salvation because they can't keep their constituents if they do. The whole head is totally wrong. The whole head is totally wrong.
Wow.
Meaning, not Jesus. I'm talking the church itself has failed so miserably that it's I can't even define it. God's calling people out of death into life. I maintain this, that when people think they can maintain their Christian witness and maintain their walk with the Lord by staying in an institutional church, the day is coming, well, that will be impossible, and I wouldn't put it past, in my estimation, based on what I'm seeing accelerating, I would give it 18 months at the max.
And that
obvious. I've never seen a clear animal face, and it's a wolf. Well, Vladimir Putin calls his young wolves, the young military-aged people, actually kids who are learning how to get prepared to fight, he calls them the young wolves. But the fact that this is over Russia and it was in the Aurora is pretty unsettling, okay? So it's just been sent to you, and let me just make sure it goes out. People get to see this stuff in real time, what really goes on behind the scenes. Okay, here we go. Mars. You've got to ask yourself, why have so many science fiction movies and why has Mars probably played the most important role in ancient history, even more so than any other planet, any other constellation, any other heavenly body? I submit to you that Mars and Earth were, in essence, twin planets. That at one point, when God originally created them, that Mars, if you will, would have been the Cain planet, and Earth was Abel. There's twins in the Bible. We know that. We know that Jacob and Esau. We know the idea that one is received by God, one is judged by God. And so the idea, Doug, is this, that something happened between Mars and the Earth that the ancients knew. The ancients, by the way, were terrified of Mars. And even when we were in, Cusco, Peru, and we were at the Coricancha, I think I posted on my website, I know I did, a picture. The constellation they were most concerned with was Draco, the dragon. That's interesting. The search for life on Mars is about to get weird. This is from Scientific American. Astrobiologists ponder sending gene sequencers, weather stations, drilling rigs, and more to the red planet. Now, I don't know that most people will be able to understand the true meaning of that. Astrobiologists ponder sending gene sequencers, weather stations, drilling rigs, and more to the red planet. This is Scientific American. The thought that you can take bacteria from Mars or you can send a gene sequencer to Mars, if you do not supply the gene or genetic material to Mars, then what you got to assume, don't you, that there's already genetic material on Mars that they can sequence. Isn't that basic logic?
Yeah, one would say, yep. Absolutely.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, I'm looking for two to say, okay? Yep. The headlines are the all-telling lines, okay? How about this? Raman, R-A-M-A-N, which is a form of spectroscopic analysis, meets extremophiles on Earth and Mars. Studies for successful search for life. The Royal Society compared with extraterrestrial scenarios on Mars, Titan, and Enceladus, and Europa, the different moons. Now, what's really important is that when you're seeing all of these stories, I can share this with you, and I'm going to go through the headlines I've posted on my website that are absolutely painting a paint-by-number picture of how this thing's going to play out, okay? Mars, BBC Future. This was stated in the headlines in 2014. If setting up home on another planet sounds a daunting prospect, then our space correspondent Richard Hollingham is here to help. In the video about former astronaut Jeff Hoffman describes the project to bring oxygen to Mars.
Interesting.
Now, did you just hear what I said?
Yeah.
Well, I'm telling you this, that oxygen already exists on Mars, just not at the same level on Earth. Why geothermal energy will be key to Mars colonization? That's Forbes, September 2016. The largest volcano in our galaxy is Olympus Mons. And Olympus Mons is an interesting thing because in Greek mythology, Mount Olympus is where the gods, or quote-unquote, in the quail way of saying, the fallen angels used to live before God kicked their, how should I say this, rebellious personas off of it, and by destroying, the area, making it inhospitable for them. By the way, angels, fallen angels, do not need oxygen to breathe or any of that stuff. But obviously, God knows how to make it tough on those who have rebelled against Him. So the idea is simply this, you guys, that in all of the denials of the past, let's say, 100 years from the time the first astronomers believe they saw canals on Mars and snow, ice caps. And by the way, you look at Mars now and all the polar ice caps that you used to see years ago are no longer there. Everything that was denied is now being embraced. Does that seem strange to you? We were told there's no, obviously, water on the moon. Now there's water on the moon. We were told there's no water on Mars, and we're going to get by the half hour, and Joe, keep me to this. When NASA announced that there was a Martian Morse code and claimed they were sand dunes, and the Martian Morse code of the sand dunes matched almost uniquely to the geoglyphs inscribed on the plains of Tiwanaku in Bolivia, that David Flynn, and David Flynn is the only guy that ever brought this to the world's attention. Unfortunately, the Lord took him home, and now we've got to believe God to raise up somebody of his genius level, and he was a genius. The man was certifiably a genius, but also no one had ever postulated that which David Flynn had done. And on my website, Cydonia, The Secret Chronicle of Mars, I brought that book out, and I think I wrote a 40-page introduction about the Marzetta Stone. The Marzetta Stone is a term I coined in order to explain that the, if you will, Martian sand dunes, which NASA said were Martian Morse code, then they said, oh, we were just kidding, But why can they be kidding if that which matches the geoglyphs on Tiwanaku match Mars? In essence, as above, so below. That's not just a New Age term. In essence, the pyramids that were on Mars and the Sphinx on Mars that matched the pyramid and Sphinx on the Egyptian plateau that David Flynn also went on, and Richard Hoagland and others talked about it. The point simply being, Doug, is the relationship between Mars and the Earth are going to, it's going to soon become a kissing cousins redo, if you will. We're going to go back.
That's going to be like a force multiplier in the deception, right? I mean, that's kind of what I'm hearing.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, sir.
Well, here's the interesting thing, too. I'm going through just a couple of the statements I made at Branson, but the planet Rahab, which was the planet that Bode's Law says should exist between Mars and Jupiter, was destroyed. But it was so violent because of God's judgment that the craters on all the remaining planets and Earth's moon were formed by the cataclysmic fragmentation of the once rebellious planet. In other words, the fingerprints of God's supernatural destruction on Lucifer's planet Rahab can still be seen on the surface of the moon, the surface of Mars, and even the craters in the United States, the craters on planet Earth. The guys who are smart, astrophysicists and orbital physicists, who have basically calculated the position of Mars, the proximal orbit of Mars, and again, if you can see Olympus Mons, the largest volcano in our galaxy, going off with the naked eye, and by 700 BC, some of them claim that it got as close as 70,000 miles to Earth, the gravitational upheaval would be so immense, and the charge between the planets, the literally, if you will, the plasma discharge. And I believe that the Grand Canyon on Mars and the Grand Canyon on Earth most possibly were created with a plasma torch, if you will, an interplanetary plasma discharge. And, the water erosion may have taken place after that, but it was the discharge that cut the planet. Now, no one that I know of has ever said that, okay? And I'm just trying to say this. I do my best to pray this stuff through, investigate it through, and then I got to leave the rest with the Lord to make it real. So the Bolivian geoglyphs matched the NASA Mars, I can't say that, Mars code, and I'll try and get this to you so you can put it up. I've never put these up on my website side by side. Number one, I'm not smart enough to do it. But then I have a brother, Sean, God bless you, Sean, if you're listening, in South Africa, who took one of the areas of a normal satellite image and then showed the elevation, and this is the tunnel system. This is critical now. What they're claiming, Doug, is the lava tubes on Mars may have life in them. Well, one of the closest shots I can get, the best photographs, show the intentional elevation blurred. That is because you can see the normal satellite image on the left. Those of you who saw the Mars presentation at Branson, you probably remember seeing this. But why would, with such incredible accuracy, why would, and optics that are beyond most people's ability to even relate to from a photographic standpoint, why would they intentionally blur that? Well, they want to cover it up. The idea of looking for life in Hawaii's lava tubes now is fully underway. The Martian, if you will, experiments going on in Hawaii, on Mauna Kea, and different parts of the Big Island are basically because of the volcanic aspect of Olympus Mons on Mars. By the way, Olympus Mons is 88,600 feet high and 374 miles in diameter. If you can imagine how many lava tubes and lava fields and everything else, I think it'll be a pretty amazing undertaking for everyone. So the thing I want to cover right now is all of the different headlines that have happened just in the last maybe 60 to 90 days, Doug, because I think it's important that people get a feel for this, that this whole Martian thing isn't just because people need to have something to keep them, busy, but it's time for people to really start seeking the Lord. Because how many people you think outside of those that listen to this or listen to DVDs or whatever, or watch YouTubes, are really going to get it? And maybe a better answer is, how many people do you think really care?
Wow, yeah. And that's the purpose of these programs is to lessen the deception, I guess, or to increase the knowledge and lessen the deception.
Well, absolutely. And again, I'm struggling for words because I'm under my breath and praying, Lord, where should I go right now? Okay, I think I better just stick with the plan. Daily Mail, this is today. I'll go from today backwards, okay? And these are all the headlines on Mars, just that I have picked up or been sent to me. Daily Mail, take a tour of Mars on your desktop. NASA releases incredible 3D map of the red planet with images taken by its Curiosity rover. The future of life on Mars, concept images reveal designs for a self-sustaining human settlement on the red planet in 100 years' time. Now, here's the great one. What humans will look like in 1,000 years, taking into account Mars' low gravity, could allow the human spine to elongate enough to add a few extra inches to our height. New giants on Mars? That's the title of the New Giants on Mars. I don't know if people get that. I'll just go on. What you need to know about Mars and the secret space program. Is Mars a result of an ancient nuclear war? Was teleportation used to send men to Mars in a secret space program? How many people, Doug, as an investigator, would you have to have with impeccable credentials to believe that? Unknown to each other. Seriously. In a court of law, you've been doing enough for
I mean, obviously, the obvious answer is the more the better, but, you have two or more corroborating witnesses with impeccable credentials. I'm not exactly, and I'm thinking here in the court of public opinion now, as opposed to a legal court. I don't know if you could ever have enough in that venue, but in the legal venue, I'm sure that two or more with impeccable credentials about this particular or about any particular topic would sway or would provide the preponderance of evidence in the direction of the facts. Does that make sense to you?
Okay, okay. Would this say to you, what would this say to you? These are real numbers. I'm not making this up. 4 generals, 4 stars, okay?
Right.
3 intelligence agents.
Okay.
A gentleman handpicked by Dr. Teller, the father of the hydrogen bomb. Someone known to the radio audience who was in Space Fleet that's been to Mars. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and all impeccable, who are respected by their fellow men, and obviously, the people say, "Well, I won't believe it unless you bring them on and they tell their name." Do you think I'm that dumb? If you got 9 people, and I can tell you this, every single one of them checks out to be who they are. Okay. They don't know each other. They're all, how should I say this, not connected in any way, shape, or form. Would that make you think maybe that they're telling the truth?
Oh, yeah.
So, people say, "No, I won't believe it unless I see it." And I'd say to you the same thing. You wouldn't believe it even if you saw it. And can I tell you something? If there is ever a point of frustration in my life, it's this. It is, Lord, how do you get people that don't believe anything, especially who claim to know you, that don't believe your word? How do you get them to believe what I'm saying? And then, Lord, if I tell them, you told me if I would warn them, you would bring the people that know, people say, "Oh, you're just making that up."
Yeah, exactly.
The idea is this, it's almost like, why? And then I ask the Lord, and I want to put this into perspective one more time. When I ask the Lord, what's the use, Lord, of continuing to try and tell people about all this stuff? And then I get the naysayers, well, what does it have to do with salvation? I can't tell you, Doug, the thousands of people since I've been on talk radio have given their heart to the Lord because of the issue of the giants, because of the issue of understanding when God told the children of Israel to go in and kill every man, woman, and child that were not humans, that they've come to know the Lord. Okay? I better clarify this. Somebody said, Marcus sends me, was the plasma discharge from Mars caused by the planet's destruction or the volcanoes going off? No, the plasma discharge, look this up, Marcus, is Roche, R-O-C-H-E's limit, okay? The planet Rahab that would have been between Mars and Jupiter was destroyed due to Roche's limit. In order for that to have taken place, the orbital velocity and the proximal distance between the planets had to have been supernaturally moved by God. So it did not have anything to do with the planet's destruction, but volcanoes going off, as you change the gravity and the gravitational effect on an electrical, if you will, magma chamber, that's going to cause a lot of serious disruption. But it was, and I hope I make this really clear, that the plasma discharge from Mars and Rahab, the proximity, is what caused the destruction of Rahab, the planet. The planet Rahab, Lucifer's planet, then the asteroid belt, and it must have been with such horrific force that, in essence, the fingerprints of God's judgment on Lucifer's planet are revealed in the craters throughout the solar system. And dependent upon the locations of the craters on the different planets and or their moons, you can get a proximal distance and you can tell what time it happened, So I hope I've answered that question. By the way, there are people that teach that Atlantis is Antarctica. I asked the people who have a lot of stars that, and they said absolutely not. So to the guy I'm just answering these questions.
Okay.
That is the Atlantis before the flood that was frozen. No, I'm not saying that Antarctica is Atlantis in any way, but I'm saying that it's what you see under the frozen ice cap where the civilization exists. So please say clear on show on what is there from what age. I don't understand, Jay. If you expect me to answer your question, be articulate, and that isn't a put down. It's just a request. Okay, so Doug, we're going to go on. I'm not going to veer any more from that because, again, people have a million questions. I just left with what you need to know about Mars and the secret space program. Is Mars a result of an ancient nuclear war? Was teleportation used to send men to Mars and a secret space program? Absolutely, and still is. How about this? AI implants will allow us to control our homes with our thoughts within 20 years, government report claims. That's like old news, you guys. And then I put up on my website the other day the trailer for the 1953 movie Invaders from Mars. And that was the first science fiction presentation of implants in the back of a skull. I don't know if you remember seeing that. If anybody wants to take a look at that, it was a high-budget movie, by the way. I think it was $10 million. It bombed, but it was a high-budget movie. Now, how about this? This is just in October this month. Ion thruster prototype breaks records and tests, could send humans to Mars. The whole space program that people see is nothing but a magician's hypnotic amulet. Simply stated, it means this. They keep us occupied with that space program, and they funnel money from that space program, solid rockets, liquid fuel rockets, all of the stuff you see. That's all old school. The real program has been taking place for the last 50 years, and that's what they call black ops. That's what they call the black budget secret space program. Okay, let's do this. Life really could exist on Mars. Life really could exist on Mars. Hardy bacteria similar to that found in the Arctic may thrive on the red planet thanks to a salty solution that prevents liquid water from freezing. And I put a note. These are all in the hot headlines on my website. Dr. Stephen Greer interviewed by the Health Ranger. Secret groups planning false flag alien attack to roll out world government. Now, I said this, so watch how the Antarctic and current Mars revelations play out concerning this. NASA pinpoints ancient underwater volcanoes on Mars that may have a cradle of life 4 billion years ago. Similar conditions on Earth are believed to have led to the emergence of life. Hello? NASA pinpoints ancient underwater volcanoes on Mars? Aren't we told that there is no water on Mars? You see how this is, Doug? I believe God is being so cool in this, and Lord, I mean no disrespect, but I mean amazingly clear. Every single lie, these lying mouthpieces of hell, these vomit brokers from the mainstream have put out individually, the tapestry of lies, deception, and hellish manipulation of the truth are being pulled out, and the whole thing's unraveling on them. How about this, Doug? Okay, this is just too amazing for me. NASA wants to alter the DNA of Mars astronauts in the 2030s to protect them from cancerous space radiation.
Ooh. Now
listen to this. This is my statement. Take a little Martian bacteria found in Antarctica and add into astronauts' genome, and neo-Martians, they are now engineered. By the way, that's my new word, neo-Martians. How about this hot headline? All in October still. NASA missions detect massive aurora and radiation spike on Mars. This Martian discovery could hold clues to the origin of life on Earth. Experts have predicted for years that at some point in the near future, we will make the first human discovery of alien life, and that life will be on Mars.
Wow.
I hate to say it, told you so, telling you so, but it's up to you to go and see the Lord and seek Him. Humans could soon live inside the moon and Mars in giant underground, here you go, tunnels carved out by volcanoes. Those of you on the Big Island, God bless you. Hawaii. This is interesting, too, okay? Europe's space boss says now is the time to build a moon village and pledge permanent new lunar bases by the end of the next decade. It just goes on and on. I want to share this one. Elon Musk's Mars vision, a one-size-fits-all rocket, a very big one. SQ rocket artist's conception looks like the early science fiction movies' portrayal of rocket ship to Mars. It is so... how do I say this? If it's a genetic memory or a planted memory, the science fiction of old. I remember, I don't know, Doug, if any of you ever stayed up and during the years of early television watching the science fiction movies like the Mysterians and Mothra and Godzilla. Man, I think those I must have watched each one of those. Those were the days. I mean, the sun would go down and the sun would come up, and you'd still be on episode 5. Or I love that stuff. Okay. How about this? This is another one. Lockheed Martin. The time is now. Lockheed Martin reveals plan for manned Mars base camp that will orbit the red planet in 2028 with landing shuttles to ferry crew members to the surface. Yeah. I told you, everyone, Mars is going to dominate the headlines. And I'll say this to my detractors, my slanderers, and those that I should pay no attention to. You ought to really listen to what I say and get over your hate. Separate your emotional contempt for me and your desire to wanting me dead and hear this, because it may save your life and keep you from eternally being damned. And I'm not saying if people don't listen to me, they're damned. I'm talking about my detractors and those who scorn, okay? Humans could soon live inside the moon. How about this? Beijing eyes robotic and human settlement on Mars with Ambition 2020 mission. Do you know, Doug, how everything is shortening in time?
Yeah.
In other words, we hear it's 2030, and then it's 2028. Now we're at 2020.
Yep.
NASA's Curiosity rover captures spectacular images as it climbs toward a mysterious outcrop. Okay? It's just coming at us. And again, when you can't see something, and then, look, here's the deal. I have to pray, because I know this in the parable of the seed that's planted. I know the blackbirds, if you will, the devil, the demons, everything is going to come and try and steal the truth away, so I just pray in Jesus' name, keep this stuff to heart, How about this one, Doug? This is one of the ones that I just love, because again, there's so much unfolding. It's astonishing to me. Gravity map of Mars suggests the crust is porous. Again, the Jeopardy song. Scientists want to genetically modify superhumans for space travel to Mars. My answer to that is already have. Breakthrough in hunt for life on Mars' boron find adds to the evidence life did once exist on the red planet. Shows conditions from which life would have potentially grown and may have existed on ancient Mars, independent from Earth. What lies beneath? Next mission to Mars will probe the red planet's deep interior. InSight will do a deep dive into the Martian underground, putting 2 instruments onto the surface that will ferry information back from the depths. Can I make it even easier for you guys at NASA? Of course, they've already done this. Just send a probe into Valle Marineris, which is 5 miles deep, and you don't have to go because the strata all the way down would be equal to the Grand Canyon. Again, we should have the Jeopardy. Why do the inane when the plane is so capable?
Exactly. Yeah.
I love this one. We have the first ever evidence that Mars gets intense snowstorms in the dead of night. Well, it's certainly not raindrops let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. Here's the other one. During the much-anticipated solar eclipse on Monday, NASA, in collaboration with Montana State University, is launching giant balloons filled with bacteria into the stratosphere. That's, by the way, Montana State University, NASA. SQ, terraforming experiment for Mars, the Andromeda strain in reverse. NASA, we're going to try and make oxygen from the atmosphere on Mars. I would urge everyone, if I put it in the first person, I'm telling you what I wrote. This is all on my website. You can go check it out for yourself. I would urge everyone who sees what's coming with the Mars revelations to acquire Cydonia, the Secret Chronicle of Mars, located on my front page. Now you'll have to go to the books because I put the Yellowstone thing up there. And again, Doug, if you notice what we're talking about, I start out with Antarctica, Empire Beneath the Ice, how the Nazis won World War III. Then I move to Yellowstone, and I'm putting up the Yellowstone video, and Yellowstone changed the history of the world forever when it came to genetic engineering and polymerase chain reaction, making almost any imaginable creature possible by combining DNA. And now we've got, going back into August, we've got evidence of a ninth planet. 2 astronomers discuss new research that provides evidence of a giant planet tracing a bizarre, highly elongated orbit in our outer solar system. A highly elongated orbit. That's what the ancients tracked. That's what they were afraid of in Mars. Mars had a very close orbit up until 700 BC. You heard me correctly. In other words, it came within 70,000 miles of Earth on multiple occasions through the previous 4,000 years, and that's why so many people on Earth were terrified of the heavens. Okay. That's why everybody was watching the skies. They believed in catastrophism. Even Solon, when talking to the priest of Sais, which is the Egyptian, if you will, the keepers of by the way, the Egyptian priesthood still is alive today, and they possess all the ancient knowledge, and that's where the mystery schools ultimately all pay their homage. And the point being is that the priest of Sais basically said to Solon, when it comes to understanding your world, I'm paraphrasing this, you Greeks are but children, for there have been many catastrophes and cataclysms and will be many more. So, when I posted my list of 25 things that the Lord had shown me, some I've dealt with over the years I've been on talk radio, others I've dealt with. Only recently was I allowed to release the whole list, and I never got to do it at Branson, so I had to do it in a separate presentation, which the people at Branson, the people that are the DVDs and live streamers should have got by now. If you haven't, send me an email, say you didn't get the links, and I'll forward it to Jed, and he'll get you the links. But the point being, Doug, is that I said that the orbits you now see will become so non-normal that they will be disengaged from their orbital paths, and you're going to see things in the sky that will be non-explainable by the powers that be. In other words, it's going to rattle their cage. If you start seeing Mars, which, at its closest point is so many millions of miles, and now it comes within a couple 100,000 of miles, and it hasn't done that for so long. See, this is why the cover-up, okay? This is why there's so much cover-up. The whole thing on the 10th planet, Nibiru, Gabriel's fist, okay? Lucifer's hammer. Makes anybody believe that they'll ever be told the truth by any official source? That should be the, if you will, the prime directive for anybody who watches mainstream news. And mainstream news knows that, so now you've got these all hyenas and jackals trying to make it a legal offense to tell any story outside of the party line, okay? Oh, if people in America only knew that everything you've known, everything our forefathers fought for, died for, the price that the veterans have paid to have these waning moments of any form of liberty, and then to see all of the scumbag former presidents coming up against Trump and the global New World Order leaders, or how dare Clinton even open his mouth when they pillaged and plundered the American people of billions. But that's not the problem. That's a big problem. The problem is everything we ever had, everything was given to the Chinese under the Clinton administration. Yeah, what I'm saying is you're not getting it, and I don't mean that as a put down or anything, but the tie-in with Antarctica is that's the gentle shoehorn to understand Mars. They're going to claim that Mars is the, if you will, the cedar of life for the primordial Earth beneath the ice.
Gotcha.
And that's where the evolutionary process took. And then it's going to change from that to Martians are the ones that seeded us life on this planet, and it's going to be like the movie Prometheus.
Okay, and that there it makes perfect sense. I got it. All right. Perfect.
Yeah. And here, I want to quote and thank you, Randy. Randy Conway sent me one of his poems, and those of you who had the blessing of meeting him at Branson, I'd encourage you to obviously get his book, his two-part series, Before the Thunder Sounds, Poems to Empower the Soul. And I'm going to read this because it absolutely fits. Remember, another word for Stargate is portal, is doorway, okay? The opening of deadly doors. Mountaintop to mountaintop, ziggurat to ziggurat, dimension to dimension, who traverse them and with what intention? From the heavens to the earth, what atrocities were given birth when the Ben Elohim saw the daughters of men, and in that moment an evil enterprise did begin. From battle to battle into the flood, the seed had been stained, a corruption of blood. Therein lies the intention. It was an evil contravention. From the Adamite world until our own, the God-men and their offspring have been known. Most thought of them but fable and myth or story. A few might have given them the place of allegory. Ancient peoples, the Americas and around the globe, knew of the watchers and the giants that roamed. They knew of the portals that bend time and space, allowing dimensional beings to mingle with the human race. But did they know how ancient was his plan, always attempting to corrupt the seed of man, to stop the Savior from ever being born? This is why the Ben Elohim crossed the heavenly bourne. From the Vatican to Washington is but Apollyon to Abaddon. From Cydonia to Sardinia into the Smithsonian, once again, something wicked this way comes. Are the Upar's remnants left by ancient giants, the Rephaim? The question must be asked, are the giants coming back again? The evidence is mounting, proving the return is imminent. Untold peril will await all those who are ambivalent. There are legends, lore, and stories told in books and parchments and ancient scrolls. Clues are left behind in rocks and caverns and under the ice. Many are the seekers of powers of evidences have enticed. Cover-ups and lies attempting to guard the truth from our sight are the things of darkness now being brought into the light. Is there power or fallen angel technology to be obtained? Can men survive that which is on the earth is chained? The ancient portal doors long closed, men now open. The ancient portal doors long closed, men now long to open. Using technology mixed with spiritism as druidic chants are spoken. Watch and warn, this could bring an unimaginable giant holocaust as hungry cannibal cyclopeans are released when this line is crossed. I'm sorry, I've only read this the first time, so I apologize, Randy. From ancient Mayan to the Hopi, the stories differ little. In Europe and China, ancient people received the same transmittal. And so it is as the accounts of giants span the globe. In every age and every land, the giants found abode. From Giza to the valley of Elah, Goliath was not alone. Can man survive the days ahead if giants are released to roam? The connecting thread through the stories told of giants eating flesh, it was not the flesh of animals that satisfied the hungry Gilgamesh. From Switzerland to Washington, men are searching for the key, from Babylon to the Smithsonian, to unlock the stargate that sets them free. Is the fifth world now upon us? Has time now turned another page? Will this be the generation to witness the cloud eaters' golden age? Be strong and courageous is the command of the believer. Move along, nothing to see here is a lie given by the deceiver. He who knows the beginning from the end is able to keep the repentant. For those who scoff the living word, the unimaginable is for them impendent. So in other words, what they want to deny will be shortly upon them. I'll post this, the opening of deadly doors. And wow, Randy, what a good job saying, and what I've been trying to say, it's very problematic. So the time is now upon us, it's among us, it's upon us. And so how should we then live? We should remember that God loves us so much, Doug, that he will not allow his people not to be warned before the events taking place or concurrent with the events taking place. You know, it gets more and more curiouser every day that I post on my website. Every day, every wee hours of the night, the wee hours of the morning.
I've been seeing
I
that.
crash when I can crash, and I post when I can post. The declassification of specific intelligence documents are going to be released. Here's what's going to happen. Now I'll tell you what to look for. People in the intelligence community that have seen everything they believed and trusted going up in flames before their eyes, people with conscience who now see that they've been part of the biggest lie in history are going to do their best to make their peace with God and make right that history. You should listen to these words. These are not mine. The idea that God somehow is going to leave his people without a witness, without a warning, and without an empowerment to deal with all that's coming is for only those who will live forever in the, I guess you should say, the position of the scorning. You cannot expect that most people, being carnal-minded, will even be able to embrace what we've talked about tonight. And I'm not reading this, I'm just sharing this. But we are at that point in history now, and history is his story, meaning God's story, meaning Jesus' redemption, where like it, leave it, love him, deny him. Everybody is in that valley of decision. And it's becoming more and more apparent that everything that people look for to truth, and this is, I guess I'm going to say this to everybody that still watches mainstream news, okay? Why seek ye the living amongst the dead? Why let them put the pollution into your head? Why smell the smell of vomit that fills your nostrils? Why allow yourself to vomit by their command? Why not turn away from it and take the master's hand? And I'm not trying to be Randy. God knows I'm not. But the point I'm trying to say is this. We are so at the point, I hate to overuse the word point. We are so at the nexus, if you will. We are so at the hub of all the spokes coming together that people can deny until they're blue in the face, but it will never, how should I say this, it can never be said they weren't told. And I believe God, and by the way, I pray, Doug, that God opens up the ears and answers the prayers of all God's people that pray for your show, that pray for the guests, me and others, that they'll really hear. Because I know there are people out there saying, oh, it's going to get great again for America, oh, things are going to be swell. And I stand in opposition against those. I'm sorry, I do. I don't want to be contrary. As a matter of fact, I just want to go find Gideon. I want to say, God, give me a wine press. Let someone else fight the battle. And I've made that statement. And that's not false humility. That's just, brother, at the end of the day, you just go, Father, if your people are as stubborn to you as they are, how can I even deal with them? And I'm not God. I want to make that clear. Never thought I was, never said I was. And there are people who go, he thinks he's God. No, not at all. I know who God is. The point being is that we are at, and I keep saying the point being, Doug, that POs people, get to the point. Well, I say get to the point, and then you get torqued, they get frustrated. The purpose of tonight is simply to say this, that everything you are seeing in the headlines concerning Antarctica and Mars is linked. It is linked to the coming revelation of the aliens created us. The greatest attack on the faith of God's believers, on the name of Jesus Christ. And I want to share something. I got asked a question once from the Lord that I wish I would not have, and he knows why he asked me it, but he asked me, Steve, if people took me serious, that if they don't confess me before men, how will I confess them before the Father? How many people will stand? And I said, Lord, those are the questions you have the answer for, but because my attitude might not be right, this is how I prayed, which is usually a lot of times the case, I don't think many. So I ask everyone tonight, if Jesus, or if you were taken in a heavenly vision, and I don't mean taken in death, I'm talking about literally translated to heaven, and God asked you the question he asked me when I was translated to heaven, why, when I've given you so much, Steve, have you done so little? What would you answer him? Well, Lord, I was too busy. I really had some stuff going. What would you answer him? My only answer to him when I bowed my head in shame at the judgment seat of Jesus Christ, which is not the great white throne judgment, is, God, give me another chance. I want you to know, everyone, God is the God of the second chance, the third chance, and the millionth chance. And I still say this, the most powerful word I know in the English language or in any language before the throne of grace through the blood of Jesus as a child of God is help. Help, Lord. His everlasting promise, his everlasting power, his everlasting presence, his everlasting provision, his everlasting providence, his everlasting person, his everlasting posterity, because you are a child of the Most High God. Your names are written in the Lamb's Book of Life. You're seated in heavenly places if you know Jesus as your Savior. And it doesn't get any better, because in essence, he holds us in the palm of his hand. I'm going to read one of my alerts and I'll sign off for tonight, okay? Because I think it's important that people understand the what's coming at us, what's upon us, what is coming forth against us in all realms. And years ago, my friend Aftermath Bob sent me an email, and he couldn't remember a word that I had spoken, and he asked me, do you remember a word that was given years ago on talk radio? And I said, yeah, I gave it. So this is the background on this statement. And by the way, when I'm off the air with Doug in a few minutes, I will be posting Randy's poem, probably in my alert page, and I'll link it to the front page because I think it's that critical. RandyConwayPoems.com.
Right.
Randy, R-A-N-D-Y, Conway Poems, C-O-N-W-A-Y, Poems.com. And I got to tell you this, and I don't say this to flatter him. I won't flatter anybody, but the Bible says give honor to whom honor is due, credit to whom credit is due, and most people don't recognize that a lot of the Old Testament, especially the Psalms, were written in prose and written in poetry. They rhymed. Obviously not in the English, but they rhymed. I love rhyme. It absolutely, it's the meter. I think the reason it appeals so much is it basically follows the flow of thoughts and the flow of life and the flow of blood within your body. So it's RandyConwayPoems.com. Ladies and gentlemen, I promise you this. I have posted, not all of them, but the majority of them. If you read his poems, it's going to give you an understanding of the heart of God in a way you've never been able to embrace the Lord before. It's going to give you a neat way of looking and becoming excited about your walk with God like you've never done before. For instance, what I just read, Doug, he sums up probably 2 chapters of my book, and I love that. He gives, I would say, the heavenly cliff note version of so much. But I want to read this alert. It's on my website from October 12th. So the background of this is that my friend Aftermath Bob sent me an email saying, do you remember who spoke this? Somebody was asking on Mary's Board, which is a place that people post on. Words spoken by SQ years ago on talk radio. A memory of a prophecy stating that once judgment began, we would not have enough time to recover from one disaster before the next one hit. Do you recall any such prophecy? That was his email to me. My email back to him is, Bob, I think they may be referring to the word I gave years ago on radio. Here's how it went. Once the trouble starts, we will look to the left and it will be coming at us. We'll look to the right and more evil events will be closing in on us. We will look behind behind us as evil tries to overtake us. As we look forward, we'll see evil events fast approaching us, and as we look up, the powers of darkness will be raining down upon us. And as we look down upon the earth, it will open up before us, as all hell is vomited out upon the earth to devour and make war against us. But here's the bottom line. But as we look to Jesus and keep our eyes on Him, He will make a way for us and deliver us from evil. And as we walk by faith and not by sight. And that's what and that's the actual, the thing I gave years and years ago. I would challenge anyone to look at it, because again, it doesn't matter. You got fires here, you got them in Portugal and Spain. You don't have them there. You have the oil refineries blowing up, which, by the way, in my opinion, is full-scale gray terror. You've got everything underway now. It's happening at once. So if you don't keep your eyes upon Jesus, you cannot handle emotionally what's coming. So Doug and Joe, blessings to you, my brothers, to everyone that's listening tonight. I'll be posting Randy Conway's poem, randyconwaypoems.com, and I encourage you all, please, get the book, Empire Beneath the Ice, on my website, stevequayle.com.
I'll second that.
I would also... Yeah, and also please, for your sake, take a look at the 25-minute symphony of sound and sights of Yellowstone Park. Nothing like it's ever been done. There is no way the average person could do that. I mean, they just couldn't, because there's stuff there that's been filmed, in the most sophisticated way with shot over cameras, blah, blah, blah. That is not, by the way, I need to say that is not our full-length film that's under production right now that's going to blow, it's going to blow people's minds, literally, and it will blow people's minds before Yellowstone, the supervolcano, goes off. And last thing, keep your eyes on Cumbre Vieja. Expect them to cut the information coming from Cumbre Vieja. Cumbre Vieja is in the Canary Islands. It's the one that they've done National Geographic specials on, Discovery Channel. If that thing sloughs into the sea, then you've got on the East Coast a minimum of a 500 to 1,500 foot tidal wave coming fast and furious. You'll have about 8 hours to head to higher ground. Never before have they had 350, 400 earthquakes in so few days. It's a very big deal. Doug, it's never happened all the time I've been on talk radio, and I've looked at the history, and it just has never happened. So something is afoot, and hopefully you'll have the feet of faith to take you out of harm's way. Good night, everyone.